Here in this Nairobi shantytown, prostitutes are defying the laws of probability. According to this Canadian doctor, the longer you're a prostitute here, the lower your chances of contracting the virus that causes AIDS. Hello, I'm Lauren Miller. Welcome to Journeys. Do you know that it's been more than a decade since the acronym AIDS became such a familiar part of our vocabulary? And scientists are predicting by the end of 1994, more than 17 million people worldwide will be infected with the virus that causes AIDS. Many researchers also think it first took hold here in Africa. From Africa, it spread to the Caribbean, from the Caribbean to the United States, and then it swept across North America. But nowhere has the virus had such a devastating impact as here in Africa. In some African countries, entire villages are devoid of middle adult populations, replaced instead by crosses in backyards, leaving grandmothers to care for young children in poverty. Sort of seems ironic then that in this small clinic in Pumwani, a slum outside of Nairobi, the answer to the mysterious HIV might lie. This time on Journeys, I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Frank Plummer. He's a Canadian doctor who spends 8 months of the year here in Nairobi. He's studying the immune systems of Pumwani prostitutes, and he thinks that he and his research team could be this close to a breakthrough.
Grace. Habari. Mambo. Grace, this is Lauren. From Canada. Grace used to be one of the women selling sex here that some time ago she established this business selling vegetables, and she's out of prostitution now.
12 years ago, had you told Frank Plummer he'd leave Winnipeg to study sexually transmitted diseases in a Nairobi slum, and he'd be on the verge of discovering the secret to AIDS resistance, well, he never would have believed you. But now, there is nothing he'd rather do. You've been here a long time, and you must be very committed to this kind of research, because it's a totally different...
Yeah, it's, I get a lot of gratification out of what I do. Sometimes it's incredibly exciting. Right now, it's a really exciting time because of the whole issue of resistance to HIV and other things that are very interesting as well. And research is, when you're finding things like that, it gets almost kind of addictive. You get a real high from it. It's tremendous exciting. But also, I think the work that we're doing in handing out condoms here and treating women for STDs is very important. It does a lot of good. Does probably more good than I could do in practicing medicine in Canada, for instance, and help more people.
Frank Plummer had just graduated from the University of Manitoba with a fellowship in infectious diseases when he was offered the chance to work in Nairobi. His colleagues were studying a rare STD, sexually transmitted disease called chancroid. It was rare in Canada, but rampant here, and Plummer jumped at the chance to direct the project. So began a turning point in his career, and so began a love affair with Africa.
And I think it was, kind of romantic ideas that people have about Africa that interested me.
When you first got here, what were your impressions? What were you thinking? Boy, do I have my work cut out for me? Or
it's a pretty tough area to work. Much of it.
Certainly, this is not the romantic version of Africa.
No respect for
Pumwani has 12,000 people squeezed into an area just 1 square kilometer in size. Abysmal health conditions and a thriving sex trade make it the perfect place to study STDs.
It's pretty shocking when you first come to Africa and you see the poverty and the the things that people have to put up with, the way people make a living. See, the number of women involved in prostitution in this country is very large. The kind of things that men do, the menial manual work that they have to do.
The first thing that Plummer had to do was get a clinic started to collect research data. He found the prostitutes of Pumwani more than willing subjects. There are hundreds of women selling sex here, hundreds with symptoms of sexually transmitted diseases, and no medical care. You were definitely going to get the clinic going?
Well, the way we started was to sort of introduce ourselves to the community through the chief and explain that we wanted to start a project dealing with prostitutes and sexually transmitted diseases, and then invite women in the community who sell sex for a living to come to a meeting. And 200 or so showed up at the meeting. And then we had an enrollment day when we sort of got everybody's names and gave them appointments to come back for the first examinations, first testing. And in the first one morning, 500 women showed up.
500 in one morning. This is the Majengo Clinic. Majengo is Swahili for slum. More than 1,800 women have participated in Plummer's research since the clinic opened.
We started in one little room working out of 2 boxes with me and I think 2 nurses. And it's now, we have 2 doctors here, 5 nurses, a couple of assistants. So it's, a big operation. And we provide health care to a lot of people. At any one time, there's 600 women in this community practicing prostitution. They have a lot of needs for treatment of STDs, treatment of AIDS-related complaints. So it's a busy clinic. We see anywhere between, lowest is about 10 a day, I guess, but it goes up to 50.
Medical treatment in exchange for research samples is a standard sort of bargain you enter when you're doing research with humans. But the Majengo Clinic has provided so much more than medical care. Untreated, sexually transmitted diseases can spread like wildfire, causing chronic, life-threatening problems. Plummer's team has tried to prevent that by developing treatment plans for STDs that have set a global standard in developing countries. His team identified the prominent role that STDs play in promoting the spread of AIDS in Africa, and the clinic's counseling and condom distribution projects have captured world attention for preventing sexually transmitted disease.
They are not yet back. Yeah.
Oh, Jumbo.
Dr. Frank Plummer. I'm a Mandev.
What did you say? Dr. Beard.
Yeah. They know you as Mandev. Yeah.
Another spin-off of Plummer's research is the social network that's evolved. The prostitutes have organized with elected leaders and weekly meetings to talk about how to pay for funerals or how to care for orphan children. They care for each other when they get sick, and they encourage each other to find alternative work.
And that, I think, is a very important thing in and of itself. Is it really helps them to build their self-esteem, their sense of self-worth.
And how does it help them?
It gives them the confidence to do other things, to get out of prostitution, for one, to sort of take their destiny in their own hands.
Ilikuwa February basi.
People in the community don't like this very much?
They don't like it. They don't like it at all.
They don't like us?
Yeah, I don't think it's not that.
Studies have shown between 6,000 and 10,000 cases of HIV infection have been prevented every year since Plummer started education programs. When he first arrived, he found himself right in the middle of an AIDS epidemic. 2/3 of the prostitutes were HIV positive. So his research quickly expanded to include the study of AIDS.
When I used to work in the clinic. How about it?
Plummer introduced me to two of the women in his study, 35-year-old Amina seated in her doorway and Lavina, one of the leaders of the prostitute group.
Hello.
Lavina's been one of our community leaders for, I think, for 10 years now. It's been 10 years. So one of the first, with Helena, yeah?
Like 600 women in Pumwani, Amina sits on her doorstep selling sex. The going rate is about 20 shillings or 40 cents with a condom to 50 shillings or $1 without. With 4 to 6 partners a day, these women can earn far beyond the average daily wage. So you'd think that would be enough to get them out of this slum. But Plummer says that many invest the money for their children's future.
She had a son in law school in Dar es Salaam, and she was putting her son through law school.
Is everyone in the study HIV infected?
No, not everyone. It depends. I think overall it would be, after a few years, it's about 90% or so women are infected, 95%. And we have this one little group, about 5%, who don't seem to get infected for some reason. That's been, what's caused so much interest and attention. If someone is working in this community selling sex, it's pretty hard not to get HIV after a short while.
Is there enough room for us?
Regina.
Okay. Here?
The bed, yeah.
Okay. Amina agreed to show us her home. Just one room, big enough for 2 cots, one for business and one for sleeping.
They live and work. Yeah, they live here and work here. Most of the work goes on during the day. It's not red light.
Day?
Yeah, it's not a red light district. It's too dangerous at night here. It's a very rough place.
Why is it that you make a living in prostitution?
Mbona unaishi kwa hizo pesa za kufanya umalaya?
Kwa sababu sina uwezo wa kujitegemea, ni kuwa na maisha duni.
She doesn't have anything else to do. Yeah.
Does she have children?
Niko nao.
Ngapi?
1.
When?
Huh?
1.
4.
So is this woman, does she know whether she's infected or not? No, not infected?
Oh, I'm not sure if she is or not. I don't know. I think she probably knows. But.
Does she know? Did you ask her? Or is that
That's a bit
something?
hard, I think.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. All right, we can what? With 4 to 6 partners a day, women like Amina could have more than 1,000 sex partners a year. Researchers say that 1 out of 5 of her clients are probably HIV positive. So it's highly likely she's exposed to the virus every day.
Wanachota nini? Wakuchote wanafanya kazi gani?
What was that?
What kind of work are you doing?
Amina could be one of 25 in Plummer's study who've revealed a startling phenomenon.
One of the risk factors for HIV was the length that a woman had been a prostitute, but it wasn't the way you'd expect it to be. It was that the longer a woman was a prostitute, the less likely she was to be HIV positive, which is backwards.
95% of Pumwani prostitutes are now HIV positive. Hundreds have died from AIDS, but 5% remain somehow immune despite more than 10 years of exposure to HIV. Frank Plummer explains that mystery when Journeys continues. When statistics revealed that the longer a prostitute had been in the business in Pumwani, the less likely she was to have AIDS, Plummer said a little light went on. He theorized these women must have some kind of natural immunity. Here at the University of Nairobi, he tracks the source of AIDS resistance by looking at the immune system's cells.
Essentially what we found among the prostitutes is that certain HLA types appear to confer resistance, or at least partial resistance to HIV infection.
HLAs are human leukocyte antigens, molecules on our cells that govern how our immune system reacts to viruses. They also determine whether your body will accept transplanted tissue.
Anything else to do in here, Gregory? Women who have particular HLA types don't get infected as frequently as women who have other types. And we've also found certain HLA types that appear to be increased susceptibility, that if you have this particular type, you're very, very susceptible to HIV.
Plummer's team identified 2 molecules that all of the uninfected women have in common, A69 and B18. There are dozens of HLAs in thousands of combinations, so identifying the ones responsible for resistance isn't easy.
Exactly how this works, we don't know yet, but it may be that these people that have these particular types, A69 or B18, are able to respond to some part of the virus that doesn't change very much, and so they're resistant to they're immune to, able to mount an immune response to a wide variety of HIV viruses.
Plummer's theory has been met with enthusiasm and skepticism. A lot of factors could be influencing resistance to HIV. Some say it's possible the white blood cells of these women just can't be infected. Others suggest perhaps their overall health is different somehow. Or what if they actually are infected, but they aren't producing antibodies, so their tests look negative? But Plummer says he's considered all of these variables. So you think you have eliminated most of the ones that you can?
Yeah, I think that we've eliminated as many as we can. I mean, there's always the potential that there's something unknown that nobody knows about that we haven't measured, but I think we've measured pretty much everything that's known. We're working very hard currently on 2 things. The first of all is the idea that these women's white blood cells may be able to kill HIV-infected cells. And we're in the process of doing those kinds of studies, and our early results look like that would be the case, but it's still very early in the process.
White blood cells are our first line of defense when viruses invade. These cells detect foreign organisms and send chemical signals out to seek and destroy them in the bloodstream. According to Plummer, the prostitutes may be immune because their white blood cells kill HIV even when it's hiding inside the body's own cells.
The second set of experiments that we're involved in is looking at the relationship of HLA molecules to HIV infection in a little different way. HLA molecules actually are sort of stolen by the virus as it buds from the host cell membrane. These HLA molecules are actually incorporated into part of the virus. So it's possible that immune responses directed at these HLA molecules could be protecting these women.
When HIV invades a cell, the cell makes copies of the virus. When the copies emerge, they're coated with the cell's membrane containing HLAs. Plummer thinks that if certain HLAs are on that coating, the AIDS virus could be perceived as transplanted tissue. So the immune system launches an unusually vigorous attack to reject the tissue, killing the HIV. How do you feel about this work?
I'm extremely excited about it. I think that we're going to find some very, very important things about natural immunity to HIV, and I think it has a real possibility of speeding the process of development of vaccines for HIV. And it's possible that we could even be the people to make the first really effective vaccine. But if not, I think this will help others to do that.
What if it is your team?
Well, that would be beyond belief. I mean, I had never really imagined that I would be in this kind of position even 2 years ago. So it would be beyond belief.
Frank Plummer has had significant influence in this community. Not only does he provide free medical care, he provides jobs in a city with 30% unemployment. Some of Plummer's lab technicians came off the street with no previous experience. Plummer trained them and gave them jobs on his project. About 70 people are involved in the research. This exotic facade lured Frank and his family to Africa, but the reality of working here has had its drawbacks. Resources are scarce, work can progress very slowly here, and funding is always a problem. But Frank Plummer loves this place and takes it all in stride. Far from the streets of Pumwani, Frank and his family rent a home on an acre or so of land. Just perfect for 3 dogs and 3 young daughters.
it's every day is an adventure here, and every accomplishment takes more effort.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It does seem to take more effort. Things that you take for granted in Canada, things that just flow so smoothly, you don't have that here.
Yeah, it's tough to get supplies, tough to get equipment. Things break, it's hard to get them fixed.
Yet you're still not prepared to say, forget it, I'm just going to go back to a lab in Canada.
Yeah, there are days that you feel like saying, chucking it all in. I think work-wise, it's very gratifying. I don't think I would have been able to achieve as much as I've achieved working in Canada. The opportunities for research, in spite of the difficulties that I described, the opportunities are really tremendous.
Afraid for your daughter's life? That says a lot about Frank Plummer. He sees opportunities rather than obstacles. Life in Africa is an opportunity for his family to experience a different culture. Pumwani, an opportunity to find a vaccine for AIDS. Is it just starting here? Has this been going on for some time? Neither Frank nor Carla Plummer can envision another lifestyle for them. Initially, life in Africa felt exotic. Now it feels familiar, warts and all. Warts like frequent blackouts, inadequate health care, and high crime.
See these grates? I mean, this drives you nuts at night. Every night you have to jail yourself in.
How do you feel about Frank's work?
She gets mad at me when the phone starts ringing at 6 o'clock and I'm on the phone for 2 hours.
I can understand.
I think Frank's work is wonderful. It's been an amazing amount of progress in the last 10 years, and it's been fascinating to watch the project grow.
Do you feel connected with what he's doing, or is it, and share that sense of progress, or?
Well, I do and I don't. I do. I think I do as much as I want to. I'm really pleased that this is how it happened, and hopefully something really positive there will be an end, and then it'll be a positive end. And there's so many people that pass through this project, and so I'm connected that way, because at some point or another they all end up here for dinner.
What do you see for, I don't know, 5-10 years down the road?
Ask Frank now.
I don't know. I don't think we'll still be here in 5 or 10 years, but maybe.
But
we're not planning to be here.
Having said that, Frank said that 8 years ago.
Yeah.
When we came here for our first and only 2 years, and now we're in our 11th year.
11th year?
This is our 11th year.
Yeah.
Any speculation, ideas of what's next?
No, I can see us probably going back to Winnipeg for a while. And maybe from there we'd have a better idea of what would be next.
And part of my problem in doing that is I think, well, maybe it's time for change. But I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing, and I can't think of any place I'd rather be doing it, or it's possible to do it.
Are you doing this for the work?
Yeah, partly, and partly because I like it here. I really like Kenya, and I love living in Africa. There's a sense of adventure that is kind of always with you that I really like.
What keeps you going and doing it? Because I'm sure you've had one obstacle after another. I don't know, the excitement of science, of finding new things, of understanding how to understanding things and understanding how to prevent diseases, understanding how to change the world. I guess Karl Marx once said something to the effect that the purpose of science is not to study the world but to change it, and I think that's one of the things that I believe in. If the purpose of science is to change the world, then Frank Plummer not only believes it, he's doing it. While he is truly excited about the real possibility that his team could develop a vaccine against HIV based on their work, treating STDs and educating Pumwani residents is equally important to him. And the research conducted in his tiny Majengo clinic is now being used as a foundation for treating STDs throughout the developing world. Few Canadian scientists would choose to live and work under the conditions Frank Plummer has chosen. In fact, it's a wonder any good science can come out of his lab, because If a microscope breaks down, it can take months to repair. Frequent power outages can destroy critical lab work. And sometimes he can't get his hands on the most basic laboratory materials. Now, scientific study can be painfully slow in state-of-the-art conditions. Here, it can seem like forever. Frank Plummer should be commended for his vision and his perseverance. For Journeys, I'm Lauren Miller.
Wow!